You know what's crazy about this channel? I always manage to profile decks when they're outside of the peak of their popularity, even though I own the cards. I don't know why I do that. What's going on, guys? My name is Joe. This is Duel Factory, and I am profiling my favorite deck, which is Blue Eyes White Dragon. As some of you may know, but a lot of you don't, especially since it's a smaller YouTube channel. Kaiba was my favorite character from the original anime, so naturally Blue Eyes White Dragon is my favorite card, right? But obviously Blue Eyes hasn't been like super competitively viable throughout the years. But recently, or not recently, but I want to say within at least last 12 months, they released the Blue Eyes White Structure deck, or whatever it was called, I can't remember, but it had Blue Eyes White Dragon in it. But one thing that I loved about the support, but I also hate at the same time, is they made it to where the deck will always be viable, but it'll never be the best deck, right? The cards are super powerful, as you can see, like Maiden of White there, and it made Blue Eyes Tyrant Dragon, which I think is the win con of the deck, right? And then they have other cards that aged very well. The problem is the cards that are the most impactful also require you to main deck engine requirements. And because of that, and then there's too many bricks in the deck for me personally, for me to think that it could ever be the best deck, unless there's like a super big change up in like Yu-Gi-Oh! And stuff like that. But I'm going to profile it anyway, because like I said, I played it for a while now. It's one of my favorite decks to play. And note, this build is before I've taken in consideration of the new Justice Hunter decks, which it doesn't have cards like Dominus Purge in it. And I'm not playing this currently in the deck, but I think going forward, you can play those cards again, especially if those decks are better than what other people give them thought for. Or, like, obviously we have a ban list coming after Worlds and stuff like that. Oh, hopefully. I don't know. But enough about that. We'll get into the actual profile itself. So, to start off, we'll start with the Blue Eyes cards. And we'll start with what I think are the best starters. Maiden of White is the best starter for your Blue Eyes engine. It's very hard to hand trap unless you play people named Lucas who like to play Cyframe, Gear Gamma, and their Psychic decks. But it being able to get True Light directly from the deck is a very, very powerful effect, and reviving itself whenever Blue Eyes White Dragon is summoned from anywhere, really, is really a good effect, right? It also has another effect a lot of people overlook. When it's targeted, it can start to summon a level 1 late tuner or Blue Eyes White Dragon from the graveyard. No, it does have to be chained directly to that effect, so it can't be chain blocked. But this is your best starter for your Blue Eyes package. The second best starter would be your Sage with Eyes of Blue, because it gets you directly to your Maiden with White. Problem with this card is if your opponent has like a Draw and Lopper and stuff like that, and like you're playing a Blue Eyes player that searches this before they search Maiden, then he locks you out of the game a little bit. So that's kind of tough. This card is also more susceptible to hand traps, unlike Maiden. So like Imperm, Ash, you won't see it as often, I think, but Veilers. But there's that. And then I think the worst Blue Eye starter, but I think you have to play it at 3, is Wishes with Eyes of Blue. I see a lot of people cut this, in lists that I see, cut this card down to 2. Which I don't disagree with that logic, because you only have so many cards you can search. My problem with that is this deck already has a hard enough time seeing starters, so cutting them does not make sense to me in that note, because I know when I've played this deck, and I've played it for a long time now, that 9 times out of 10, most of the games I'm losing is since I'm not seeing my engine. And you need to be able to see it with a mixture of your non-engine cards for this deck to be able to play. And this deck performs its best when it plays both with its Blue Eyes cards and its Primite cards. Yeah, that's your Blue Eyes starters. And then the aforementioned engine requirements, right? So all 3 of these cards technically can be searched with Wishes with 4 Eyes of Blue, right? If you're searching True Light off of Wishes, I'm not going to lie to you, you're probably down very, very bad at that point, and we should probably be going to the next game. But it can be searched, so keep that in mind. But these are cards like you don't want to see in your opening hand. You just want to search them off the trap card, and I see that like not off the trap card, off the spell card. So that's why I consider them engine requirements. Opening some of these, like opening this naturally can't be terrible. Opening this naturally going second is actually awful, but it's like it has its purposes. And then True Light's True Light. As long as you can protect that card, you're usually in a position to win the game. That being said, if your opponent plays correctly, this can also be the worst card against you. So a lot of the times playing this deck, you will actually hold off on placing the True Light if you want it to be as effective as possible, right? And then for the rest of the cards, you have to play the namesake of the deck, 2 Blue Eyes White Dragon. This is my favorite art. but I am looking to get the ultimate rares. So anytime I do Blue Eyes profiles, you'll hear me make the joke, not ulti until I have them. But I think you do have to play 2. I know a lot of people when they play it, they say like going like second or in like games 2 and 3, they do side a copy out, which I can see that happening. My only problem with that is you definitely want access to this card, as crazy as that sounds, because all of your plays revolve around actually summoning Blue Eyes White Dragon. So even though playing 1 is probably fine, I think you need to play the 2nd on the off chance that you don't have a way to recover it. Like, Roar can recover it from Banish, but he can't recover it if it's face down, right? And like, that's a real thing. So I think you should play 2. That's just my thought process. And then you play the 1 Mausoleum, because it's searchable off of Spirit with Eyes of Blue. You would never play multiples of the card, and you hate opening it, but sometimes it's like, it's not terrible, because it does give, like, this card gives you access to your Blue Eyes White Dragon, right? So that's enough about that. Those are the Blue Eyes cards, and since we're playing it at a competitive level, I think the best way to do that is with your Primite cards. So for the Primite engine itself, we play 3 Ether Barrel. This, to me, is your best normal summon. You do want to see that every single game. Being able to search Drill Beam, or not being able to search Drill Beam, but be able to put Primite Lori Load on board is really powerful too, because it generates a free body every single turn, and your deck revolves around that, right? And the best part about this deck is once you get past turn 0, turn 1, it's almost, I'm not going to say impossible, but it's very, very hard for you to lose in a grind match, because this deck grinds so well because it just recurs its resources, and this is a big part of it, right? Plus, being a level 4 dragon is like huge because you can make the Link monster, and this card lets you play around Charmies really well too, which the deck does naturally already. But this card, that part's really good. 3 Lordy Load, not much to say. It searches your best normal summon. It provides you an extra body to continue extending, even though the effect lock isn't terrible as long as you have a game plan. And this being a 1-card starter, at least to seals, is really good. And then your utility cards. I am playing 1 Drill Beam. When Blue Eyes was more popular, I wasn't advocate of playing multiple, but now I think it's fine to play 1 just because I don't think it's great in like particular matchups. Malice is still a deck, and it feels really bad when you draw this card against Malice. Now, obviously, that'll probably change whenever we start seeing more events and then we have another ban list come around, but for now, I think 1 is just fine. And then I think the most underrated card right now is Primite Fusion. For those of you who don't know, it fusion summons a Dragon Fusion monster from your extra deck. It does have to use the materials from field, graveyard, or your banishment, right? You can't use cards from the hand. And it does have to include a normal monster when you use it. So this card, I think, is a super high impact, and I think it gives you more access to your Blue Eyes Tyrant Dragon. It also gives you access to cards like your Secretarian Dragon, which I think is really, really good in this deck, right? But the problem being is, since you have to use an normal monster, it does shuffle Blue Eyes back into your deck, which if it's in the graveyard, that's kind of like, that can be an issue because it also turns off your Ether Barrel. That being said, it's really good into Bestials, especially if they banish your Blue Eyes. It just gives you a way to recur them so you're not completely out of the game when that happens, and just gives you access to other cards too. So I think, I see a lot of decks not playing it, and I think it should be included in your deck, because from the games that I've tested with it so far, like, it's been one of the most highest impact cards that I have. But that's it for the Primite cards. And then the nice part about this deck is because your engine requirements, I think, are minimal compared to other meta decks. You have a lot of room for non-engine. So to start, I am playing 1 copy of Talents. I think, to me, I think it should be an include in every deck, but that's just me. Now, you can play around it fairly easily in a lot of decks, but I don't know. It's to me, it's such a high impact card. I think it should be included. And then I do play 1 copy of Veiler. This card is searchable, and now because of Secretarian Dragon, as well as cards like Primite Fusion and stuff like that, like, this card's recyclable. And even with the format change, I still don't think you play more than 1. Like, I think it's just incorrect. But especially because it's searchable. It's searchable through Wishes, searchable through Sage. You can put it back, search it again. Like, I think 1 is fine. Like, you only want to search it in your combo. Like, going second, I side this card out. I'll be 100% honest with you, because I think it's terrible. But you want to be able to search it because it's just another layer of interruption. It's also a spellcaster, which makes a Link monster too, so that's kind of cool. And then for the other hand traps, I play 3 copies of Wallos. I think this is the best Charmy. And then I also play 3 copies of Perulia. I think it's good. I have one other person who tries to convince me otherwise, and he's not necessarily wrong, but I think it does get better going into the format. And then, like I said, this has not been updated since Justice Hunter, so I am still main decking 3 copies of Drone Lockbird. I think this card's super high impact, and it also being a spellcaster comes up because it can make the link 1. But that being said, I think going into next format, I think you can cut this card from the main and you can play other cards like Purge, which this deck has access to, but I'm not 100% sure, but I will be testing it to find out. And then I am playing 3 copies of Ash Blossom, and then I'm also playing 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence, which works really well with your Tyrant Burst because it can reset it. And that is the main deck. It is 40 cards. On to the extra deck. We'll show the Blue Eyes cards first. So Blue Eyes Tyrant Dragon, to me, is the win con of the deck. It does everything you want. It's a 3400 body. It can clear all the monsters on board by attacking, which is an insane effect. And then it can reset your normal trap card, or not normal. It just resets your trap cards at the end of the damage step, right? So game 1, obviously, you can reset your Majesty and your Infinite Permanence. But when you get to the side, well, like post-side, when you have like judgments and warnings, barrier, or like different dimension ground, or like cards like that, like this card becomes incredibly lethal, especially if it sticks. And I think you should play 2 now, especially if you're playing the build that plays Primite Fusion, because you have way more access to this card, and 2 will come up. So I think it's a win con of the deck. Second card is Blue Eyes Spirit Dragon. This card aged incredibly well, and I think it is the best reason to play the Blue Eyes deck. If we didn't have access to this card, even though we have a win con, I don't think it's worth playing without it, just because of how well the card aged. It negates graveyard effects. It tags into monsters that are very relevant in today's game. And it has the hidden effect where neither player can summon 2 or more monsters, and that effect will come up. Like, this card's really good against the K9 Jokel card, where it reveals itself in a level 5 and summons 2 of them. Like, they can't activate that effect under Spirit, which is an incredible effect, right? But enough about that. We also play the Blue Eyes Ultimate Spirit. I don't think there's a way we can make it naturally in this deck. But if I go forward and I start playing cards like the Neo Kaiser Seahorse, which I think is really good, especially if you summon it off of Seals. Although, to be fair, when I play tested with that card originally, there was never a time that my Seals wasn't summoning Blue Eyes White Dragon to turn my Drill Beam on, unless I already had access to it. Then I would summon Neo Kaiser Seahorse, but I just got that card. But like, card's really good. You summon it off Spirit. It can recycle one of your bodies, and like, there are the combos that do like Starfish, Cypher Dragon, and keep it alive and stuff like that, but I think you want the card to get destroyed during the end phase, just because its floating effect's really good, right? So we play 1 of that. And then we play 2 Spirit with Eyes of Blue. This is your link 1. At one point I was playing 3, but now since I play Primite Fusion and Secretarian Dragon, I think 2 is just fine. And then you have to play 1 fusion monster equipped to cheat out your Tyrant Burst, so I play Neo Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon, just because I think it's the best one, and the targeting protection is really good. And those are the Blue Eyes cards for the extra deck. The other extra deck cards, we're playing 2 Seals. At first I was only playing 1, and then you can make the argument that you can still only play 1 because you have cards like Primite Fusion and Secretarian Dragon that can shuffle them back. But I don't want to have to shuffle this card back, so I think 2 is definitely justified. Because you'll make 1 turn 1 almost every single game, and then your opponent will try to crack your board, or they will either succeed in cracking your board or putting on like half board, and then you just make another one. And usually the second one is usually too much for your opponent to deal with. We play, these are the 2 fusions other than the aforementioned ones. Secretarian Dragon is an insane card. It's really, in the upcoming format, this card's really good against the Draco Tail deck, obviously. Its fusion requirements are a dragon and a spellcaster, which your deck plays naturally, so that's insane. It's, being able to stop the effect of Special Summon Dragon and spellcasters is also really good. So usually if you can establish it against those types of decks, it's really good. Other effect, the one that's most popular, and you can use it in almost every single match, is where it can target a dragon and spellcaster, and then you can put 1 to the bottom of the deck, you can summon 1. That effect's insane. So, yeah, there's that. And then, this was originally the Primite Dragon when I first started playing Primite Fusion, but I almost never summoned that card. Obviously, that'll change with a Yummy deck and all that fun stuff. But the idea behind this is it can be made with Primite Fusion if both my Blue Eyes get banished, which that will happen. And it's very hard for cards to naturally out this, especially if they're not playing some form of effect negation, because you can't run it over with effect monster, and it's unaffected by effect monsters in general, right? So you can stick that card on the board, you can sit on it for 4 or 5 turns probably, and it will get you there. I've only summoned it once, but it did win me that game, because again, my opponent couldn't get over it. So there's that. That being said, going forward, it probably will get cut for an Ether Barrel, or Brazil, whatever his name is, the new Primite Fusion monster, just because I think it has more applications. 2 monsters I'm summoning off Spirit Dragon are your Ancient Fairy Life Dragon, your Lightstorm Dragon. Lightstorm Dragon is really good in matchups of the Mirror, rogue matches that play a lot of back row. It can be good against Ryzeal depending on how they set their board up. That being said, I haven't tested it against... I haven't played against any of the new decks. I haven't played against Yummy. I haven't played against Draco Tail. I haven't played any against any Canine variant. So we'll see, but I don't see myself cutting this card just because being able to make it generically is really cool, and it's a very powerful effect. Recurring spells and trap cards is also very relevant too. And then Ancient Fairy Life Dragon, because this makes one Sage a lethal push. And then the last card we play is one copy of Typhon. Notably, this is because of the Mitsurugi deck, which is still floating around, and every Mitsurugi deck feels like plays every version of Ryzeal possible, so it's also an out to detonator, so on and so forth. It could get cut, depending on how the new format goes, but we shall see. And then since I've been playing this for so long, I will show you what my current side deck is. It could change, but you never know. We are playing 3 copies of Lancia. It is a silver bullet card for Malice, so we definitely play that. It also has overlap in the Orcus versions of most decks, but if they play Fiendsmith cards, or if they play Mitsurugi cards, and they open them, that's kind of tough, but we live with those. We play 3 copies of Thrust, because it can search more win conditions in your deck, especially when you're going first, or it can search a board breaker going second. 1 copy of Duster, which is searchable through Thrust. It was like playing 4 of them. And then at the time, I'm playing 1 different Dimension Ground and 1 Dimensional Barrier. Arguably, that should just be Sanctum. I have just happened to misplace playing at the time, but Denver Dimension Ground's okay. It's really good against everything but Malice, but again, we should be getting a ban list that changes that, so you never know. But yeah, my thoughts, you should probably play Sanctum instead. And then since I'm main decking 6 Charmies, I think siding 6 Solemns is correct. So I'm playing 3 copies of Judgments, and I'm also playing 3 copies of Solemn Warning. I think Warning is better than Strike, simply because it can hit the ritual spells of the current format. That being said, there could be an argument that you could probably play Strike going into it. But thinking about it, since Draco Tail will be a popular pick, just because... I don't know actually why Draco Tail is a popular pick, other than it's a fusion deck and it can do a lot of things. Because I think the Yummy deck is just objective... It could probably be objectively better as an overall deck. I could be wrong on that one, but I don't know. But Warning can hit Rahu Draco Tail. It can also hit the Searcher, which I think is Ketu Draco Tail. So I think Warning's probably just better. And Tyrant being able to reset these cards is actually just insane. Like, if you ever get into a game state where you're just resetting Solemns off of your Tyrant, your opponent was never winning to begin with. But that is my profile for my Blue Eyes Primite deck profile. Let me guys know what you think. I think I will post another list of it again, just updated for current format. That way I can give you guys my thoughts, especially since I'll do some playtesting against Draco Tail, and I'm sure someone at my locals will play Yummy, so I can get some playtesting against that. And obviously I'll be playing some new formats. I have advocated to picking up Draco Tail. I do currently have the deck, I just haven't put it together, but if I can find them, I have been picking up some of the cooler cards, and I have been picking up the CRs. I don't really care for QCSRs and stuff like that, or what's it called? Starlights, but I did pick up some of these, so I'm just waiting for the rest of them to come in, and then I'll start playing it. But yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.